My perspective on teaching has been shaped profoundly by a number of factors, and one of them is this question of context. Before I knew I would be an anatomy and yoga teacher, I studied theater and I studied philosophy. And in college, I did my thesis for my philosophy degree on this question of context as it related to theater. In my training in theater, the assumption was, from a Greek model, from Aristotle's Poetics, that the goal of a theatrical production was to create an experience that someone could identify with, in the sense that as an audience member, I would have the experience that the person on stage was having. So the assumption was that I would be able to have the same emotional response to circumstances that whoever the character was on stage was experiencing, that I would have their emotional response. At the same time, I was studying in philosophy all kinds of theories about the difference in experiences that people have. So I realized that the question of context is very important. We do not all automatically have the same experience, so we can't assume that in a theatrical production, someone coming in as an audience member will have the everyman experience of a character on stage because of differences in gender, in race, in economics, in education, now in culture. There are a tremendous number of reasons why someone won't have exactly the same experience as someone else. So the assumption that we'll have the same experience as a foundation for building a theatrical experience, or now as a foundation for teaching, is flawed, because if we assume that, we leave out people who come from a different context. So I'm very interested in the idea of looking as a teacher at creating situations where people can bring their own experience in, where we value that primary experience of the individual, where we take into account their education, their experience, their culture, their family, their language, how they've learned to learn, how they've learned to experience their body, everything else that goes into creating this fabric of context that someone brings into the room when they come to study. I want to take all of those into account and then allow for a new experience to arise, or explore how I can meet them in their experience. That question includes not assuming that I know how to meet their experience. I am, as a theater maker or as a teacher, coming in with my own context, with my own set of previous experiences that have shaped my ideas and my expectations. So in my own self, paying attention to where my expectations come in, or the things that feed in from my previous experiences that I assume everybody will share, is really important to consider, and I cannot ever leave my own lens behind, but I can acknowledge that I have one and set out from that to use skills around embodiment, around valuing experience, to use skills around language to try to create a space where we can develop a common language and value each person's experience. As a person who made theater, as a teacher now, it's important to me to acknowledge that I come in with my own context, with my own lens that I look at things through. It's important to me to not assume that I know what someone else's experience is, that I don't assume that everyone is having the same experience. I'm interested in creating situations where each person can have their own experience, where their previous experiences are valued, and where we're invited to come into a new experience or experience a new part of our bodies or a new kind of movement, and to give all of those value.